elderly parents who lived in the village was, etc., etc. So obviously the fact that people have been so well organised at contacting those on their street, well done all you coordinators out there. People obviously are confident with who you are now. I have had some calls from coordinators, that tends to be now who phones me, wanting to check what to do about something. Occasionally, I think a lot go to Don, but some come to me. So yeah, I think again, you're getting more and more information from Don, so that's happening less as well now. I've had some financial queries. Some people, one person's contacted me because somebody in their road was struggling and needed money for an electricity meter. So they contacted me. I had a call from out of the village from the county wanting me to check on one of the sheltered people because they weren't answering their phone, so I had to go and check on that. So it tends to be now external queries coming in, but I'm also here to answer anything if you're needing help with what you're doing. But I think generally, yeah, we're doing very well. Is that enough?
Lovely. Any questions for Jo on the central helpline? You can put them on the chat or put your hand up. Any questions for Jo? Okay, all right. So we'll move on to Don as volunteer liaison.
Right. So the things appear to be going quite well out there. The result of the survey, there was 2 people who said that they were getting lots and lots and lots of requests, but were coping with it, and nobody said they were getting more requests for help than they were able to cope with, which is quite gratifying. Lots of feedback on the guidance notes, most of which is positive. And we've got 100% coverage of street coordinators, still only 50% coverage of deputies. So I'd ask you to keep putting in the names of deputies, and if you can't find a deputy, please say so, and we'll do our best to find one for you. Lots of good coordination between coordinators in that if one is overloaded and a neighbouring one has got lots of volunteer support, that they're being able to share quite well. That's very gratifying. So as far as from what I can see, things out there are going fairly smoothly. If that's not right, then please let us know. Thank you.
And then if there's no questions for Don, and I'll just monitor the chat, we'll move on to Nick. So Nick Wood for business liaison. Thank you.
Okay, businesses, certainly the ones that I'm talking to are generally doing really well and coping very well in difficult circumstances. The Histon Friar is going to be opening sometime in the next week or so. I'm going to be talking to them today to discuss kind of lessons learned from other businesses, how they're coping, and making sure that the Histon Friar can open in a safe way. So safeguarding customers and staff, and making sure that we don't have big queues inside the chip shop itself. I don't know what the outcome of that will be, but I will let certainly the core team know, and then the wider group know as things progress. But we want to support local businesses. If they want to open, that's great, but we need to make sure that it's done in a safe manner. Pharmacy deliveries are going well. So Morag Goodwin, who I know is on the call at the moment, so shout out to her for doing such a great job, and Hannah Sheeling, who are taking the calls. Hannah's not on the call today because she has work to do, but that's going really well. So we're taking orders for the pharmacies and the customers of the pharmacies, and getting the prescriptions out to the people who need it, and we're getting them out at the right time to the right people on a very regular basis. So again, shout out to Morag and Hannah for making that happen and doing such a great job. I can't think of better people to be doing that. We have had some calls for drop-offs in Cottenham, which we're actually doing at the moment, but if we start getting more, and we are collecting the data and monitoring it, if we start getting more requests for Cottenham, then I'll probably try and bring in somebody from Cottenham to do that. But that's just for information and for me to worry about. We've got Google Forms in place to collect data so we can monitor it all. What else is happening? On the pallets, we've got 7 in place at the moment. So Baptist Church, Methodist Church, Salvation Army, Villa Road / well, on the Villa Road bit, outside IVC, top of Clay Street where it joins Cottenham Road and the burial ground. We've got pallets for people to donate to. Thanks for everybody who's donating to that. And if anybody does want to donate, push them to the nearest pallet. That's kind of bringing a great sense of community to people. So people who want to help but aren't necessarily involved in the volunteers wider group, but getting some great feedback from people who want to help and are helping by donating food, which is then being distributed by the Salvation Army and HI Friends, and is getting out to the right people. And please, guys, carry on donating. If you haven't already, empty your cupboards, get stuff out there. It's going to people who genuinely need it. There's going to be some notice boards put up by the pallets because a lot of people aren't on Facebook or aren't on emails, but are walking by the pallets and reading information. So there's notice boards going to get put up hopefully today, with information on what we're doing around the COVID-19 response, so we can get that out to people. It's just another form of communication. And I've got Meals on Wheels being delivered to certainly one vulnerable resident at the moment, where there's kind of been a bit of a dereliction of duty from mental health care workers. Hopefully that's been resolved now. But if anybody knows of anybody who needs some hot food delivered to them, whether that's on a regular basis or whether it's just for just to give them a break from cooking. You know, if there's a single parent who's got kids and they're stuck inside all day and just need a break, or an elderly person who it doesn't matter. If you know of anybody who could do with some help with a hot meal, I can organise that. Etheldred Care Home are happy to cook an extra 5 meals per day, and I can scale that up with other organisations. Just let me know, and I can get hot food out to people at lunchtime, either on a regular basis or just as a one-off. Okay, I think that's me.
Great, thank you, Nick. And then we'll move on to Neil. Neil
raised a
Davis.
question in the chat, Yvonne.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do the pallets say what time they are collected? Thanks, Joe. So produce isn't left there too long. One for you, Nick.
Yeah. So I've managed to delegate this. So another shout out to Will Sheeling, who isn't on Facebook and who isn't in this group, but he's picking the pallets up. He's going out around 5:30, a bit later. He's going out with his daughter, picking the pallets up and liaising with Salvation Army. So sometime kind of between 5:30 and 7 o'clock, the pallets are getting emptied. We're starting to put it in place. The one on Villa Road now has an umbrella over it to shield it from sun/rain. Ian Couch has put a box out on the Clay Street, Cottenham Road pallet, so that stuff can be put in there and kept away from the sun or the rain. And we'll be looking at other measures with some of the other pallets. But yeah, to answer the question, 5:30 to 7 o'clock, they're getting picked up.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. We've got another question. Are you okay, Nick, for people to deliver meals? I don't think it's your say so, Nick, but the question is, are you okay for people to deliver meals? Happy to help if you need an extra pair of hands wheels. Oh, okay, that makes it, okay, got it.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm happy delivering to the one person that I'm going out to every day. I've built an amount of trust with him and helping solve some of the issues there. If it gets busier, then yes, I would love help. But at the moment, I'm fine. It gets me out of the house.
Okay. So thank you, Margaret, for so proud of everyone in our community. Thanks and well done to you all. Thank you. And then going on to Neil on the wellbeing team. Thanks, Nick.
Yvonne, please.
Change the slide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Hi. Following the launch of the food parcels last week, this is an initiative between Salvation Army and High Friends. Over 20 parcels were delivered last week, and thanks to the schools for circulating the food parcel information flyer. That was really successful, and also a thanks to the street coordinators. There was about 3 or 4 who actually requested food parcels for people in their street. I think that's a really very effective way of doing it, and we would encourage sort of more street coordinators to do that. There are people who are have got problems, including families. So please do take advantage of this service. I think the wellbeing team things have calmed down since the start of the crisis, and we are going to be looking at new ways of reaching the elderly. Before the crisis started, we were proposing to start up a sporting memories reminiscent activity, and one of the ideas is perhaps to start an online club to start with. So we are looking at new ways of doing things. We have been very grateful for the grants that we've received following last week's call. I think we are now reaching a point where with the grant money that we receive for the food parcels, we're going to have more than enough funds for the food parcels. So I think the trustees of High Friends are looking to repurpose the fund that was started, so that this is a more general fund. Sort of, I use the words recovery fund cautiously, but I think we would like to start thinking of ways and means of helping with the well-being needs of the community as we emerge from the lockdown. And I think we haven't received many calls about sort of mental well-being support or issues that residents are having, and that's an area that we are keen to support through our mental well-being work at Cephanet. So hopefully we'll be working on that in the next couple of weeks, and we're also working with the schools. We've got a meeting with the junior school on Thursday to think about sort of how we can help specifically when hopefully the children will go back sometime in the next few months. So any comments about sort of the recovery fund in inverted commas would be really helpful. I've just been asked about what the memories idea. Well, this is a sporting reminiscence activity. There's a national charity that specialises in producing weekly, sort of like a pinking sporting newspaper, which is really good, and it's provided online. So what the thought that's going through my mind is to create an online sort of sporting reminiscent sort of activity to which all ages could be invited, and the material that this Sporting Memories charity produces is really good. So if anybody is interested, if they could email me, that would be really good. My email address is neil@highfriends.org. wellbeing.org.uk. And if anybody has got any ideas on sort of how the wellbeing piece can be progressed to support residents, please do advise. And one last activity is that again, before the crisis, we were thinking of starting a new activity at the recreation ground called Thursday Together. This was going to be sporting, craft activities and games and things like that. And we're thinking of starting this online in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we will perhaps provide more details next week. So we are trying to repurpose our activities to be relevant in the short term, and hopefully it won't be too long before we can do them face to face, but it's a watch this space. So thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Neil. Just to go back to the second slide. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that all our high COVID-19 key contacts are accessible from via our central helpline from next week. Don, I think you had 2,517 emails, didn't in the first instance, and things are now calming down?
Yeah, they certainly came at a bit thick and fast pace in the early days, but things are quietening down a lot now.
Okay, so what we're going to do, and this is the reason I've set the slide out like this, we're going to make sure that we spread across the team. So Don will be available to you, but via the central helpline, which will make sure that we've got key person risk sorted out. We can identify the need in our community using that telephone system, so we can identify how many calls we get, and also we can all use the questions you send us. The information being gathered from the community was called out by Joe to further develop our FAQ and guidance. So that's happening. So we're at 10:24. I'm not going to do this slide now, and you haven't had the chance to prepare it earlier, but what we would like you to do is just think about our, if you like, 4 pillars of operation: our central helpline that Joe runs, our volunteer liaison run by Don, our business liaison, which Nick is running, and I put a couple of questions that you've had on the on the chat here, and then the well-being here. So before you leave the meeting today, if you can just put on the chat line, tag central helpline, volunteer liaison, business liaison, or well-being team, any questions you might have, or any comments and suggestions, so that we're getting both the feedback from the core operations team from their perspective, and also the feedback from yourselves. Okay, moving on to slide 3. We're calling this community resilience. So the survey, thank you to Ed for putting together a survey which allowed us to collect your comments almost real time. In fact, Ed, would you say real time?
It is real time, yeah. So we get, as soon as someone puts response, it's automatic onto the report. So
great. So by structuring your structuring questions better, we can just get the data very quickly into that survey. So our survey response rate from street coordinators has been 55%. Previous survey done about 3 weeks ago was 50%. And Don, you're aiming for 100, aren't you?
That would be nice. I checked just before the meeting and we're up at 68% of street coordinators have responded, so keep it coming.
Okay, good. Okay, and then the street volunteers and others, we're only at 3%. Previously, they weren't included. So what we're saying in this meeting is to you as street coordinators, please encourage everyone in the community that they have a voice, because you will see things from different perspectives. We're all in this together. We're moving from hero culture to fully collaborative culture. So please do encourage the volunteers. You know, we'd like to hear from them too. And please use the last box in the survey. Any other questions you'd like to see, anything you'd like us to do differently in the surveys, do let us know. And then what we will do with the survey is we will link it to all of the data we've got on volunteers, on vulnerable people, and also on unique addresses. So we've got a lot of data, and what we would aim to do, Ed and I are working on this, is make sure that you've got a method for easily communicating using technology, not complicated technology, so that Don gets your feedback, so that Joe gets your feedback, and the core team gets your feedback very quickly. So we're trying to make it as easy for you as we possibly can. So again, here we have a bubble to move things from "things are quiet on my street," and we are getting a few responses to, maybe we need to change this, Ed, to "we know everyone on our street." This person has said, confident that everyone is okay, but would be good to hear from the 3 or 4 who haven't contacted me. And Nick Wood, you've got some concerns that maybe people aren't speaking up, haven't you, that maybe you could raise here. Are you with me, Nick? He's back on mute. Yeah, so I'll speak. Okay, here he is. Lovely.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a very big concern that there's people who could do with some help that aren't putting their hands up. So people who have put their hands up and said, "Look, I could do with some help," we're helping, and that's great. But it's very, very likely that there are people around who need help who aren't asking for it. Now, this could be people who are very vulnerable, or it could just be people that I've come across a couple of people who they've lost their 0 hours contracts and they have no money. They don't have lots of money stored away in order to help themselves out. You know, and they're on their knees. And so if you know any of these people, then, you know, we can help. We can get them food. We can get them help. We can get them whatever it is that they need. So, you know, look out for these people, guys, and let us know. We'll deal with it, obviously, confidentially and with the integrity that it deserves. But we need to know who these people are so we can help them. And I think there's probably a problem's probably the wrong word to say, but you know, people are proud or they're embarrassed or whatever it is to put their hands up. But we can get help to these people, and nobody else needs to know about it. So just let us know if you find these people, and we can fix whatever problems they have. And that's not necessarily just around food or money. It could be people who need a chiropractor or a chiropodist, or it could be anything. We're a pretty resourceful group of people, and we can solve these problems. So just make sure they're raised. There's no problem that's too small. But if somebody's struggling, or if struggling is probably the wrong word, but if people need some help somewhere, then we can fix that, and we're good at it. So just let us know. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. The budgies come to mind. No problem is too big or too small. I'm never going to forget the budgies, and I understand that they're still doing well in their new home. So, okay. So moving on to the last slide for today before the questions, and then we've got a couple of others just to sum up. This is, again, feedback from the 28 people who filled in the last box on the survey. So we have delivered meals and shared stories and information. There's also comments about the street parties going on. This is an important one for me. I would like more transparency of data held by other village so I can understand the bigger picture. Nick touched on that with Cottenham. We're also reaching out. Oh, that's great, Morag. I can see Dorothy is now back home. That's great news. Thanks for sharing. Nick's also been talking to Girton. I've been talking to Kings Meadow. David Jenkins is keeping us in the loop with Orchard Park. So reaching out to the wider area. And we did have feedback earlier from Brian Ing, who is on our parish council, that Serbia has also seen what we're doing in Histon. So our outreach is doing pretty well. We have 2 new babies born during lockdown. That was a comment that caught my eye. So impressed by the support of our businesses Absolutely, me too. And we see a very wonderful poster in Tesco saying proud to support our local community. I think we should have a poster, well, I think we should, saying proud to support our local businesses. They've helped Nick with his with the food. There was one guy who had 3 meals from 3 different businesses, all free of charge, as we said last week. So absolutely amazing. Friends in other villages do not have the level of organisation and community support we enjoy in Histon and Impington. Credit goes to the support group, credit goes to all of you. And I am sure that we will all benefit from the unity this has fostered, absolutely. And Neil's point about phase 2, you know, we need to look at phase 2 and how the unity can be taken forward. But if your friends and villages are in local communities, we'd be happy to talk to them. And also take a look at our COVID-19 website, where we're posting all of our guidance notes, all of our slides, all of our volunteer meetings now recorded. So they can take a look at that and see whether we can help them. And then this was an important one for me. Since signing up as a volunteer, we have become a shielded household. We are now recipients of help and support, but hasn't so far made the coordinator role any more difficult. Thanks for helping us all make Histon and Impington a safe place to live. So that's really, you know, huge, that actually the carers can need to become cared for, but actually the coordinator role can still be done when you're a shielded household. So that's one of our principles that we've called out week after week. So how long have we got? We've got another 10, 11 minutes. So we'll take the questions on the helpline and I'll share them with the team. So Rachel, a good one for me from you, as always, thank you. Thought just come to me, do we have an official list of village tradespeople working? Nick, that's one for you, I think.
I've just put a post on that actually. There's the village yearbook, the network yearbook, although it isn't currently working. It depends what question she wants.
Okay, I'm going to put this under the central helpline and we'll come back to you on that. So the network yearbook is definitely something we've been looking at, and we've been looking at High Hub.
Nick could definitely help with who is currently working though, possibly. That wasn't, sorry.
Well, no, I know of which businesses, kind of shops are open, and I think probably most people do, and there's certainly something on the HI Hub website listing that, but there's a lot of individual workers who are, you know, whether it's gardening or window cleaning or electricians who are working. I don't have a list of those, but I see on HI People on the Facebook page that people are asking for help and people are generally getting help. If anybody needs any particular help from a local business, either put it on HI People or contact me or any of the COVID-19 response team, and we'll try and point you in the right direction. But I don't have a list of kind of sole traders who are doing really great jobs around the village.
Okay, so I spoke to a sole trader yesterday who delivered some flowers to someone I like very much. 2 people within their household are looking at applying for universal credit. So where we can support our local businesses, that's really important. And also it feeds in, Don, and you might like to just mention this, the scam that you came across last week. You know, local traders, if they're approved, then, you know, trustworthy.
Yeah, just very briefly, one of the street coordinators highlighted to me the fact that somebody had been fleeced by a bunch of guys going around in a van doing some gardening. And at the end of not very much work, they asked the lady for 300 quid. So I put that round to the street coordinators, and it's appeared on High Hub and other sites as well. There's the comment on the screen actually is quite interesting in the bubble. You know, I do not want to recommend services that are posted on Facebook, as they may or may not be reputable. I think that's a good point. You know, should the high COVID central team, core team, be vetting companies and then producing a prepared list and an approved list? I don't think we've got the resources to do that myself.
Okay, one to take up. Okay, let's have a look. So Nigel makes a great point, and I've posted that in. It's something we're looking at. I've been looking at this one actually with David Jenkins. With regard to trades help, my guess is that there are lots of people who would like to be working. We had a great experience with the washing machine firm from Barton. I agree, Mike. I agree. That's an important one. I agree, Nigel. Sorry, I'm looking at Mike's question now. Hi, I've been keeping the opening time sheet up to date, tried to do it with businesses, but it's changing all the time. Mike, yeah, I think this is an important one, Mike. I looked at the Cambridge Building Society last Friday, and there was not a clue they were open till 4 o'clock. Margaret Reed Roberts, has that been reported to the police? I think that's the scam, Don. Pardon?
Don's answered that already on the thread. Yes, it has.
Oh, he has. Okay, all right. I can't keep up. All right. Margaret, yes, it was reported. Okay. So is that being done as a normal procedure, Don? Are they always reported?
I'm only aware of one.
Okay. All right. So if there's any others, again, do let Don know via the central helpline. We'll get that up and running as soon as possible. Any other questions? Okay. All right, so just moving on to our vision. I won't read it out this week. I've just put it at the end. So again, you know, that fully collaborative approach. Morag, have you not got your letter of authority? If not, you need to go to Chelsea at the parish office.
Yvonne, I have mine, but I'm now sharing out work with my volunteers and they haven't had any.
Lovely. So yeah, just contact Chelsea on that on 235906, Morag. So anyone who hasn't got their letters of authority, that's the number to call at the moment.
Thank you.
Is that okay? Okay, and the message hasn't changed, except that we are streamlining our contact details so that we have our contact details in place. And then moving on to today, 1 minute silence at 11 o'clock, which is why we're finishing at 10:45. This has been posted on High Volunteers. And then just a reminder at 7:58 p.m. on Thursday, silence for our community as called out by James Blandford Baker last week. Look, typo by me. I'm going to change that now. Silence for our community at 7:58, clap for our NHS at 8 p.m. And just a reinforcement of please support our government's guidelines to keep our community safe. If you can keep out of the queues, if you can queue safely with social distancing, that will keep both our businesses and our residents as safe as they can be. But if you can do it online, which might be a little bit outside your comfort zone, all the better. And just one more thing to say about online, our wonderful Colin Miles, Ed, is that right? He's putting his tech tips on High Hub this week, so do look after those. And what we aim to do is for our elderly residents or even people who aren't tech savvy, Colin's our man to help us get comfortable with online. But look forward to seeing you later, quietly, very quietly, at 11 o'clock. That's it from me. As you leave, do put any questions in the chat line, any feedback about the format of the meeting, so we can try and get better every week. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.